Good morning, everyone. On behalf of EduReform, a project co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union, I, Anushka Jilin, Innovation Manager at the Maharaja Sajirao University of Baroda, along with my team members, Ms. Mansi Uppal, Ms. Gitanjali Joshi, and Ms. Nidhi Wadia, welcome you to today's session. The EduReform project aims to mitigate the impact of the fourth industrial revolution on the Indian society, education reform for future and in-service teachers. Every year on 11th November, it is celebrated as National Education Day, which marks the birth anniversary of India's first Minister of Education, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, who firmly believed education imparted by heart can bring revolution in the society. I, along with my team members, on this day will be talking about the Indian education system. The Indian education system in the ancient period was the Gurukul, the India's first system of education. It was a residential schooling system which had a guru known as teacher and shishya known as student. And they used to reside in the guru's ashram, home. This allowed to develop an emotional bond. The mode of communication was the ancient Sanskrit language. The basis of learning was not only to read books and memorize knowledge, but for the well-rounded, holistic development of the child, focusing on spiritual, mental, cognitive aspects. The main sources of teaching in the ancient education system was Vedic literature. Now, I will be talking about the difference between the traditional education and the modern education. So if you see, the traditional education was teacher-centered, wherein the teacher played an active role, but in the modern education, it is more learner-centered, wherein the students play more active role. In the traditional education, it was very much subject-specific knowledge. But when it comes to the modern education, it is subject-specific as well as skill-based. That is, you learn the theory and you also learn the practical aspects of it. In the traditional education system, it was only one-way transfer of knowledge. That is, teachers mostly adopted the lecture method. But when it comes to modern education, it is multi-way transfer of knowledge. That is, teachers have now started adopting different teaching methods. That is case studies, project work, heuristic method, which makes the learning interactive and engaging. In the traditional education system, it was more theoretical, but when it comes to modern, it is conceptual as well as practical. Thank you. Now, I would request Ms. Nidhi Waldia to please speak on school education in India statistics.
Thank you, Anushka, for really explaining the difference between traditional and modern education system well. If you look at modern education system, there are different kinds of schools that students go to. There are government schools, and then there are non-government schools, that is private schools. But in types of schools also there are multiple levels. So there is primary school, that is till first to fifth grade. Then there is upper primary, 6th to 8th grade. Then there is high or secondary school, which is 9th and 10th grade. And then there is senior secondary schools, which is 11th and 12th grade. So if you look at Indian educational landscape, the number of primary schools in India is very high. It's 8,40,546. But if we look at upper primary schools, the number goes down by half. So there are only 4,29,624 upper primary schools. And then there is even less high or secondary schools, that is 1,39,539. And the senior secondary schools, their number is the least. It's 1,12,637. So this is because the number of students also decreases as we go up the level of the schooling. So Indian school system is not able to retain all the students who enroll into primary school up till the intermediate schools. So the number of students enrolling, next slide please, in the primary school is 130 million. But if you look at upper primary, the number of students goes down to half. So only 67 million students enroll in upper primary schools, and then out of that, only 38 enroll into higher or secondary schools, and then out of that, only 23 million students enroll into senior secondary schools. That is, they complete their 11th and 12th. And out of those 23 million, only 3.359 million students pursue higher education, that is a college degree. So we are not able to retain our students, and there are many factors behind it, which we'll learn about later. Now, there are different types of schools in India. So the first type of school is a government primary school. Around 90% of Indian students government primary schools. These schools were created under Right to Education Act, which made it mandatory for all the students from age groups 6 to 14 to attend schools. So these are very low funded schools. Government spends 3,000 per year per child in these schools. So the quality of education imparted and the facilities in these schools is not very good. Then there are model schools. These are upgraded version of government primary schools. In these schools, better facilities are there, child to teacher ratio is good, and government pays more attention to these schools because there is more enrollment ratio. And due to due to this, these primary schools also have a different color. They are painted pink. Then there are Kendriya Vidyalayas. Kendriya Vidyalayas are the schools created for central government employees, including defense and paramilitary persons. Uh, Government spends around 27,000 per child uh, per year in Kendriya Vidyalayas. Then there are Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas. These were set in 1986 for gifted rural children. There is a whole lot of difference between the funding in normal government schools and the Jawahar Navodayas. Jawahar Navodayas spend 85,000 per child per year uh, on student education. So now there are ashrama schools. So there are areas where there is a large amount of scheduled tribe population, scheduled tribe community. So there special schools called the ashram schools are set up. Um, then there are Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya or KGBV. These are set up in areas which are educationally backward. These are also called dark zones of education. Here the female literacy rate is very low and it is way below the national average. Due to this, residential girls' schools are created to provide girl child good quality of education. Then there are army public schools. These are quasi-government schools, meaning although they are funded by government, they are not managed by government. It is controlled by Army Welfare Education Society, which contains army personnel. Now there are private schools. Private schools are also of three types. The number one type of private school is government aided private school. Government aided private schools are the private schools which were established by private entities, but due to their good work and good system of education, government started funding them. For example, the DAV schools are funded by government, the teacher's salary is paid by government, but these are managed by DAV College Managing Committee. Then there are unaided private schools. These are either affiliated to CBSE, NCERT, or international boards. There are two kinds of unaided schools. There are low-cost private schools and there are high-cost private schools. The low-cost private schools have poor facilities and the teachers are meagerly paid, and the quality of education is not that good. Then there are high-cost private schools where the facilities are what we learned about in modern education system. They are quite similar. There are ICT classrooms, there are smart boards, there are good, well-trained teachers. And then there are alternative schools. These are established based on uh, philosophies of some educational philosophers or psychologists. For example, Waldorf School, Krishnamurti School, Reggio Emilia School. Now we look that there is a huge diversity in terms of types of schools, due to which there is lack of inclusion, and the quality of schooling received by all children is not same. So there is not equality in education. But let us also look out at the linguistic landscape of India. So is there a access, or is there a quality of education? Is there equality in terms of every child is educated equally well? So if you look at linguistic landscape of India, there are 19,500 raw mother tongues. So there are 19,500 mother tongues spoken all over India, but only out of that 23 to 30, 26 to 33 mother tongues are included as medium of instruction in schools, due to which we can see how many children's mother tongue don't get a place and how many children do not receive that sense of belonging in schools, that sense of equality in schools. Although it is difficult to give equal access to all the students, the National Education Policy has made many new amendments, which Gitanjali will explain further on how to improve access and quality in education. Gitanjali, on to you.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you, Nidhi. You have explained in a better way present status of Indian education system. Let us think about future of Indian education system. As now this is the right time, I think, to think about future of our education system, which is based on National Education Policy of India, presented in 2020. So let us think about and know more about National Education Policy. Principles of National Education Policy, these are as follows. The foundational pillars of this policy are access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. Access to everyone to get education is one of the very important point that is included in this National Education Policy. And the principle on which this policy is based are such as flexibility for learners, for teachers, for every stakeholder, we can say, of this education system. Then multidisciplinary approach is there. The focus is also on holistic education. So one of the principle of this education policy is holistic education also. For multidisciplinary word, emphasis on conceptual understanding is given. Again, it is important to force or to grasp the values in case of students upbringing. So these values are also how to inculcate these values, that is also given in the principle of this National Education Policy. Continuous professional development, positive working environments, and service conditions must be assured. That is the main point given in the principles of National Education Policy. Let us see where and how the focus is given. Early childhood care and education, which is the foundation of learning. National Education Policy focuses on this. Foundational literacy and numeracy is one of the key point, we can say, on which we have to give stress. An urgent and necessary prerequisite to learning is important. Curtailing dropout rates and ensuring universal access to education at all levels. Curriculum and pedagogy in schools. This is also one of the important focus of NEP. And the most important thing is pedagogy in a new design is introduced here. That is 5+3+3+4, which will be the new era of education in India, we can say. Teachers truly shape the future of our children, and therefore the future of our nation is in the hands of teachers. So These are the main points included in National Education Policy. Equitable and inclusive education. Learning for all is the most important point. Then efficient resourcing and effective governance through school complexes. And towards a more holistic education. We are taking India in one step ahead towards holistic education, which was already mentioned in ancient education system of India, as explained by Anushka. For example, there were universities like Takshashila and Nalanda, to the extensive literatures of India, combining subjects across fields. And again, we are going towards our roots to build up the education tree firmly, that we can say. Coming towards the implementation of education policy, by 2030, it is expected that the past decade would have provided ample opportunities for evaluation, fine-tuning, as well as major changes if called for to be effected. So hopefully we are waiting for the successful implementation of this. 2030 to 40 is the decade in which the entire policy will be in an operational mode, following which another comprehensive review will be undertaken. Again, we have to go take review and again implement it many times. And in this process, participation of each and every educationist, each and every student, each and every parent, or all stakeholders of this education system is very, very important. I hand over now to Mansi.
Thank you so much, Geetanjali, about the beautiful information about national education policy. Hello, everyone. My name is Ms. Mansi. I am EduReform Innovation Manager of Chitkara University, Punjab. Today, after listening to all the topics, I am going to conclude about what is Indian education system, what is its positive aspects. Starting with, I'm going to tell you about advantages of Indian education system. One of the most beautiful advantage of Indian education system is that it provides compulsory and free education to the child between the age of 6 to 14 years. That means it provides the compulsory and free education from the government side to the students for the primary section. Pre-planned curriculum. All the schools and universities are associated with bodies. For example, if we talk about school, they are affiliated with CBSE or ICSE. So they have a pre-planned curriculum which defines all the activities, whether it is curricular or co-curricular. Regular attendance method. The regular attendance method promotes the regularity amongst the students, their studying habit. Next is regular assessment and assignments. Assessing the students and giving the particular assignments on each topic brings the education systems more effective. So for that, they have regular assessments on the basis of their semesters, or sometimes they have the periodic assessments too. Along with them, they provide assignments as well. They are based on curricular as well as co-curricular. Indian education system also provides students with different streams that they can choose according to their interest. Basically, at the school level, there are 4 streams, that is arts, commerce, non-medical, and medical. But one of the most beautiful thing about Indian education system is that they provide the basic knowledge about all the subjects throughout their pre-primary and primary section. That means the 4 basic subjects, that is English, Hindi, social science, and science, is taught till 10th standard, as well as they also have their regional languages. And once they reach the stage of 10th standard, after that, they can choose their stream according to their interest. Although Indian education system has lots of advantages, there are few areas that needs to be improved. We believe that the bookish knowledge is more emphasized on the school level. That means the students as well as the teacher focuses more on the bookish knowledge that they can provide. Because of that, there is lack in the practical training. As we all know that what we study is different from what the real life application is. And for that, the real life experiences as well as the practical training is one of the most important element, which somehow we feel that is lacking in this Indian education system. We are aware that there is a huge gap between the public schools and the private schools. The teaching standards, the equipments, the things that the pedagogies that is used in the public schools are far different from the private schools. That means we need to focus on the public schools as well. We need to provide them with such tools that they can also bring the gap into equal stage. Lack of opportunities for the young minds. Like one of my colleagues, Nidhi, has already mentioned that the enrollment in the public schools are much more. But what happens when they complete their education, but there is no opportunities, further opportunities for them? Why? Because there is some skills which are still missing in them. More of career oriented. Students nowadays choose those professions which are more career oriented, or I can say choose more streams which are more career oriented. They focus on their career rather than their interest. That is also one of the drawback of Indian education system. We can say that the national education policy will bring a wide change in the education system, but still it is a hope as we target it to achieve all the things till 2030. If we talk about the previous academic structure, these were totally divided into two parts only. That is the 2 years of ages 16 to 18 and 10 years of ages 6 to 16. That means the curriculum was divided among the two parts only. But the national education policy has brought a big change in that. Now, the pedagogy and curricular structure has been divided into 4 parts: the foundational years, preparatory year, middle year, and secondary year. This is how we believe that we are going to impart the different skills in the students at different level. Now, let's talk about what role the edu reform can play in the Indian education system. As we know that there are many areas that we need to improve. So, edu reform plays an helping hand for these in-service teachers, as we are here to mitigate the impact of fourth revolution change in the education system. And we are going to provide the tools to in-service as well as the future teachers. So we are here to empower the future and in-service teachers. We are here to pilot activities in Indian secondary schools designed to increase analytical, critical, and creative skills among students. This will help the students to fill the gap between what is taught in the school and what the real life scenario is. Talking about them, gradually and sustainably enlarge the EduReform network as an open platform. So EduReform is going to provide 2 things to the Indian education system, to the service training or to the business, to the students, B.Ed students, with 2 special tools. Number 1 is EduReform Handbook, which will be designed in such a way that they will help in capacity building activities. Like we are going to add such tools, pedagogical tools in this handbook, that these tools can be included, or we can say that it can be merged with the curriculum and can help the teachers to provide the students with such studies that they'll be able to develop their analytical, critical, and creative skills. Not just handbook, we are going to come up with EduReform MOOC courses as well. in which we are going to train the in-service as well as the future teachers that how they can teach in such a way that students are fully ready to face the upcoming competition in the society. So this is what EduReform aims at. I hope that we, along with Indian education system, along with different universities, providing new teachers will work together and bring the change in our education system. Our aim is to integrate these tools in the curriculum so that the curriculum can enhance in a better way. And what national education policy aims at, we are going to prove that right, or we are going to forward and hand in that to achieve the goal smoothly and more easily. Thank you so much, everyone, for being the wonderful audience about this. We are really happy that you joined our session. Me and my team thanks you all for your time. Thank you.